They weren't dinosaurs, but they ruled the Earth. Long before a single T-Rex roared or a Triceratops grazed ancient ferns, other creatures held dominion over land, sea, and sky. Creatures so bizarre, so colossal, and so forgotten that their story is rarely told. Why don't we remember them? Welcome to Curiosity Echo. Today, we're diving deep into the shadows of prehistory to uncover the rulers that came before the dinosaurs. The real first giants of Earth. And trust me, what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew about life's ancient past. But before we uncover the terrifying apex predator of the Cambrian oceans or the armored beast that crushed their prey with bone-cracking jaws, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and leave a like if you're ready for a journey across 500 million years of forgotten rulers. Let's bring these ancient titans back into the spotlight. And here's a question to spark your imagination. If you could meet just one prehistoric creature from before the dinosaurs, who would it be? Let us know in the comments below. We'll feature some of your answers in our next episode. It begins not with roars, but with silence. Roughly 4.6 billion years ago, Earth was a violent newborn, battered by meteorites, its skies choked with volcanic ash, and its surface too hot for life. But slowly, something began to change. As the planet cooled and oceans formed, life sparked into existence. Microscopic, fragile, but persistent. The first rulers of Earth were invisible to the naked eye, simple cells that thrived in extreme conditions. Over billions of years, they evolved and shaped the atmosphere, releasing oxygen into the air and transforming Earth's chemistry. Stromatolites, layered microbial colonies, still fossilized today, were among the first monumental signs of life. Without them, none of what came next would have been possible. But what did come next would change everything. About 541 million years ago, life exploded. Not literally, but evolution accelerated at an unprecedented rate. We call it the Cambrian explosion, a period when most major animal body plans suddenly emerged. And leading this biological revolution? The oceans. Because back then, life had yet to take a single step on land. The seas were alien worlds. Trilobites scuttled across the seafloor, some with spiked armor and sophisticated eyes. Jelly-like creatures floated silently while filter feeders danced with ocean currents. But one predator stood above them all, Anomalocaris. This meter-long arthropod had compound eyes, barbed tentacles, and a circular jaw like a mechanical blender. It hunted trilobites with ruthless precision. With no fish in sight, Anomalocaris was the first true apex predator Earth had ever known. And just when you thought it couldn't get weirder, during the Ordovician period, around 485 million years ago, the oceans gave rise to another leviathan, the straight-shelled cephalopod. Imagine a squid packed inside a 30-foot-long conical shell, jetting through the warm seas like a prehistoric torpedo. These creatures, some known as Anomalocaris, use tentacles to seize prey and crush them with powerful beaks. They were quite possibly the largest animals on Earth at the time. But the most terrifying part? They had no real rivals. Yet. When life tried stepping onto land, it did so timidly. Tiny mosses clung to shorelines, followed by primitive arthropods like early millipedes and scorpions. Meanwhile, in the water, something new stirred: jawed fish. Their appearance opened up a whole new world of hunting and defense. And among these jawed pioneers, sharks began to emerge. But in the Silurian and Devonian periods, the real monsters were lurking where no one expected it. The sea scorpions. Some, like Dunkelosteus, grew over 8 feet long. Imagine a giant armored arthropod with pincers the size of your forearm, launching from the seabed to ambush unsuspecting fish. They were swift, brutal, and the deadliest things in rivers and shallow seas. And yet, evolution wasn't finished crafting giants. In the Devonian, often called the Age of Fishes, a new horror arose: Dunkleosteus. This was no ordinary fish. This was a living tank. At 33 feet long, Dunkleosteus had bony armor covering its head and jaws. Instead of teeth, it had razor-sharp plates capable of slicing through bone and shell. Its bite force, among the strongest ever recorded. It could rip apart prey its own size. Even other armored fish weren't safe. For over 20 million years, this predator ruled with unmatched ferocity until the oceans changed, and once again, extinction swept away the dominant players. As the Devonian period gave way to the Carboniferous, Earth transformed. The oceans retreated and land took center stage. Forests erupted across the continents. Tall club mosses, giant horsetails, and ferns formed dense swamp jungles. Oxygen levels soared to over 30%, fueling a revolution that would birth monsters. And no, not reptiles, not yet. We're talking about insects the size of seagulls and millipedes longer than your couch. Meganeura, a dragonfly-like insect, soared through the sky with a wingspan of nearly 3 feet. And then there was Arthropleura, an 8-foot-long, armored, multi-legged crawler that dominated the forest floor like a creeping tank. These weren't just bugs. They were apex survivors in an age where no birds or mammals existed. And in the water, enormous amphibians like Eogyrinus waited in ambush. Massive, eel-bodied predators ready to drag anything into the depths. But nothing lasts forever. As the Carboniferous period faded, the earth grew dry, forests shrank, and new rulers rose from the shadows. The Permian period marked a shift unlike any before. Massive deserts spread across the supercontinent Pangaea. Swamps dwindled. The humidity that once allowed giant insects to thrive was gone. Amphibians faded into the background. Now it was time for the reptiles to rise. Enter the synapsids, often called mammal-like reptiles. These weren't dinosaurs, they came before them. Creatures like Dimetrodon, with its iconic sailback and jagged, flesh-ripping teeth, stalked the dry valleys as apex predators. It could regulate body temperature, hunt with precision, and dominate anything in its path. But Dimetrodon wasn't alone. On the ground, rugged herbivores like Periosaurs, stocky, tank-like reptiles with armored skin, moved in herds. In the shadows, deadly predators like Inostrancevia, a saber-toothed gorgonopsid, waited for the perfect moment to strike. These creatures were fast, intelligent, and efficient killers, millions of years before any saber-toothed cat would ever roam the earth. And then came the end. Around 252 million years ago, Earth experienced the worst mass extinction in its history. Volcanoes in Siberia belched toxic gas into the air. Oceans lost their oxygen. Rainforest collapsed. And over 90% of marine life and 70% of land animals vanished. This cataclysm is known as the Great Dying. Entire lineages of creatures we've just explored wiped out, an entire world reset. And from this desolate silence rose a few survivors. Among them was Lystrosaurus, a squat, tusked, pig-sized herbivore that somehow thrived in the barren landscapes of the early Triassic. In some fossil beds, nearly every skeleton is a Lystrosaurus. That's how dominant it became. But the real story of the Triassic isn't about survivors, it's about successors. From the ashes of the Permian emerged a new group, the Archosaurs. These were the ancestors of crocodiles, pterosaurs, and yes, dinosaurs. At first, dinosaurs were small, modest. They coexisted with other archosaurs and synapsids, barely making an impact. But fate had other plans. At the end of the Triassic, another extinction struck. Less severe, but just enough to tip the scales. Suddenly, many of the archosaurs vanished. And the dinosaurs, they exploded onto the scene. So, next time someone says dinosaurs were the first great rulers of Earth, you'll know better. They were simply the latest in a long, extraordinary lineage of forgotten giants. Before them came the sea monsters with spiraled jaws, the insect overlords of prehistoric skies, the crocodile-like hunters of the Permian plains, and the armored titans of the Devonian deep. Life on Earth is a never-ending cycle of rise and fall. Species ascend, dominate, and vanish, only to be replaced by something even stranger, even more magnificent. But here's the haunting question. What ancient rulers might still lie buried, undiscovered beneath our feet? And if mass extinctions reset the rules every time, could we be next? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Which of these forgotten beasts amazed you the most? And which one do you think deserves a comeback in pop culture? Before you go, if you enjoyed this prehistoric deep dive, help us reach more curious minds like yours. Subscribe to Curiosity Echo, tap the notification bell, and hit that like button so this story doesn't stay buried. Because here, we echo the forgotten truths of the cosmos and the creatures that shaped our world, long before we ever walked it.